Welcome to the Hump Day Hangout podcast by Semantic Mastery, where we answer your local SEO questions every week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Adam Moody, and my partner at Semantic Mastery, Bradley Benner, will be sharing his decades of expertise based on not only helping others, but running his own agencies and businesses in the space. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube each week, just go to www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, go to the same link, www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at any time and submit it there. Don't forget, you can get the Semantic Mastery Local SEO Toolkit for free at the same URL. Okay, let's get going with this episode. Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 568. Today is the 15th of October, 2025. We are going to jump into answering your local SEO questions after we take care of a couple of announcements, say hello to everybody, and then get into it. Whether you're joining us live or if you've asked your questions ahead of time, we will get to them. And just in case you are new to Semantic Mastery, if you're new to Hump Day Hangouts, what you can always do is go to semanticmastery.com/HDHO for Hump Day Hangout. And if it is not between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, you'll get a page where you can ask your question ahead of time, watch previous episodes, whatever it is you need. And then during the times we update that URL, and boom, you are brought here live. So if you have a question and you're not sure you're going to be able to make it live, we get it. You may have other things going on. You can always go to semanticmastery.com/HDHO and click on ask your question ahead of time, submit it, and we will get to it. Only thing to add on to that is make sure then that you subscribe to the Semantic Mastery YouTube channel so you get notified when there's a new episode out, and you will be able to check out the answer to your question. And I will say the benefit to being live, besides getting the information right away, is also if we need clarifications, occasionally, questions are a little vague, or there's maybe a couple answers depending on some details or variables. If you're here live, we can get that information from you and help you out. If you're not here, not a lot we can do sometimes, but we try our best. So with that said, say hi to Bradley real quick. Chris is off traveling. I know he's got a pretty iffy connection, so he may join us at some point, but he's on the road right now. So Bradley, how are you doing?
Good, man. Happy to be here. Just crazy busy and just working through building new apps and stuff, which is awesome. So pretty excited, man. It's been last month has been a lot of like new just learning and stuff, and it's been really exciting, almost kind of like felt like when I was first got involved in SEO. It's like I'm a sponge right now, you know. And with the challenge is how do you spend your time wisely when it's kind
Yeah.
of like this kid in a candy store feeling. You know what I mean? With like
Yeah.
so much, so many things, so many different rabbit holes you can go down. It's hard to stay focused on anything to make any progress towards something productive. So that's the challenge I'm having now. It's really kind of just trying to keep really focused on something that's practical and an application of AI in a practical manner. Not anything. I'm trying to avoid testing too many different apps, although it's kind of hard not to because they're rolling out as quick, so quickly. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with I did a podcast interview with a guy a couple of weeks ago, and we just had a second call follow up, just kind of just talk shop and stuff. And he was saying that, like he's he was saying, how do you find like how do you determine when it's appropriate to kind of start building an AI agent or workflow to automate something in your business? And he goes, aren't you worried about the fact that what is right now the best option in 2 weeks could be outdated or obsolete or have a way better option available? And
Yeah.
I was like, well, the thing that I think about is that you're either going to start now on just building things, and yes, things are evolving quickly so that you'll be able to adapt to the changes, or you wait, sit on your hands and wait until you think the timing is right, which it's never going to be right, by the way. And
Yeah.
you wait until you think the timing is right, and then you're playing catch up on how to navigate through these apps, you know what I mean? Like in order to build stuff. And so I was like, I think you're better off just jumping in now, but really try to stay focused in on stuff that's practical applications. Nothing, I mean, we all want to go after the sexy, like create these awesome workflows that are sexy and fucking amazing and all that kind of stuff so we can beat our chest and, think we're awesome. But really where I think the most potential is just creating boring automated workflows that automate or make processes within a business more efficient.
Yeah.
Nothing really super sexy, just practical, you know? And I think that's where the most value is right now. And that's what I'm trying to do in my own agency with some different things so that if it works out properly, possibly license it or teach, license what we've developed or teach it to others, however it works. But I think that's the real starting point. So
Yeah. Well,
it's been
speaking
fun.
of process and saving time and getting, the results you want, we've got a special that people are gonna who subscribe via email to Semantic Mastery are gonna find out about tomorrow, a 20% discount on local ops. So, obviously that has a lot to do with process, and I know you've talked about it the last few weeks, but would you mind reminding people about what local ops is in case they're not familiar? Just want to take a couple minutes here because if you're watching this live, then that means that I'm going to put the discount code in, but you can grab that. It's only going to be available at this discount until Saturday, and then everyone else will get the email tomorrow. But wanted to let everyone have an early chance at that if they're watching and interested. And like you said, a lot of this stuff boils down to process, saving time, getting results, and this is something that can work for if somebody who's doing it themselves, or if you've got some VAs or even a team, I think local ops might be a good option for them.
Yeah. So local ops is again, it's just an SOP that, well, it's really my format, my process for SEO, like how I apply, what do I apply and in what order and in what timeline. That's basically what this is. And there's two options. It's for I've had a ton of questions over the years in semantic mastery about like, you guys got great training, you got a lot of training or whatever, but where do I start? And so eventually that's basically where this came from. This was just like after answering that question so many different times, different ways, I said, I'm just going to create a document basically or an SOP that really covers this. And it started off where it was just a Google Doc where I just shared it with the mastermind members. It was just basically a sequence of tasks and the timeline. And originally there wasn't even a timeline. But I just said, here's what I apply and in which order. Okay. And then with some links to either training or done for you services or both. Then over time, I just kind of fleshed it out a little bit more, put it in SOP format, which you can see here. There's an overview video. Training and resources are here, where I talk about what I use for that. Then the checklist. This just really breaks down essentially what the rest of the SOP is. Just really flesh this out. So this is the checklist. The rest of the SOP is exactly just formatted, which you can see here, with either training and each module has two options. It explains what it's for, why it's important, and then it gives you two options. Either do it yourself and then there's training, or done for you. And then there's an option for you to go purchase it from our white label services, meaning we do it or our team does it in-house, or from our vendors that we recommend. In any case, you have the option to either do it yourself or have it done for you. And that's essentially the process. And so this, guys, I'm telling you, you go out and start um, pick an industry, start having discuss, I use the directory process, but you don't have to use that. Just pick an industry, start marketing to generate leads or have conversations initially with business owners in whatever industry you've chosen, specifically, local business owner type business industries. Select a business vertical, start booking appointments, even if initially it's not to sell anything, it's just a discovery call. I'm telling you, this is invaluable to start having conversations with company owners in whatever industry you've selected to find out what pain points they have and things like that. So, and what's working for them, what's not working for them, all that kind of stuff. Have some discovery calls first so that you can develop a way to pitch your services, your marketing services, lead gen, business build, whatever you're calling yourself, right? I don't think we should really be called SEOs anymore. But once you have kind of developed an understanding and a familiarity with conversing with business owners in whatever industry, and you might already have a chosen industry. If you don't, pick one, is what I'm saying. And then once you kind of become familiar with are common problems or pain points for the business owner in whatever industry you've chosen, then it's going to help you to develop a much more effective marketing message, right? Marketing message and sales presentation, right? It'll help you to develop an offer too that is got the language that is going to be more compelling to that particular business owner type, if that's clear. And then once you have that, then guys learn. That's the whole point. Go out and sell this shit and use something like local ops to either train your own in-house fulfillment team or to use white label services so that you can go out and guys, the hard part is generating the revenue from it, right? I think the easier part is actually getting the results for local, especially if you target low competition areas, which is what I teach. Why go after competitive markets where it's going to make your job harder to get results? Why do we do that? Why? I don't understand. I think it's because everybody thinks, oh, well, because I can make so much more money. Yeah, but your headaches or the problems, the stress level is so much higher as well. So what I would rather have multiple lower paying clients that are a slam dunk to get results for that need very little attention, if ever, if any, really, than to have higher paying clients that are, much more difficult to get results for. And sometimes they don't, it's not like sometimes higher paying clients don't really need any hold handing or anything, but sometimes they do, but your stress levels are so much higher. And so what I'm saying is if you go through something like local ops, guys, you have the opportunity to get out there, identify a market, start develop, craft your offer to be compelling. It's going to take some trial and error. Welcome to the world of running an actual business, right? You have to trial and error to figure out what offer converts, modify your message, all that kind of stuff. But once you have a repeatable process that is providing a fairly good conversion rate, right? In other words, booking calls, making pitching offers or presenting offers, and then closing sales. You can do that until you using white label providers until you have really fine tuned or dialed in your sales process, your marketing and sales process. And then if you want, you can bring all that in house. Again, training's available for you. So I'm just pointing it out because, a lot of people come into the business and they want to go learn how to do rank shit first, right? Like I'm going to learn how to rank this and rank that. And then once I know all that, then I'm going to go out and sell it. And I'm going to be, my problems are over. I'll be financially free, it's only a matter of time, blah, blah, blah. Good luck with that, man. How many of you guys have been learning SEO and aren't struggling to make a real, kind of real income from it? Right? So, and so all I'm saying is I think the industry's backwards. Going into the industry thinking that you have to learn how to do the SEO part first is, I think, backwards. I think the best thing to do is identify how to solve problems for a particular business owner and develop an offer with already available white label fulfillment partners. You develop an offer, package it up in a way that is attractive to that particular business owner, and then learn how to sell it. Learn how to generate leads for your own business, and then learn how to sell whatever your offer is. And then once you do that, then you start to generate positive cash flow. Get your cash flow needs met first, right? Cover your overhead, your any business expenses, any virtual assistants, tools, all that. That's all kind of wrapped up underneath overhead, right? Plus whatever your own personal income goals are, right? Don't forget about that. That's really important. Your own personal income. How much income do you want to extract as personal income on out of your business? In my business, I pull about 20%. Right. The rest of it goes back in. Any additional margin goes back into the business for expansion, development, adding employees, whatever. You understand? So I pull about 20% of my gross revenues as personal income. And so get all that met first. And then if you want to build complexity in your business, which can improve profitability, sure, but also increase stress levels, then you can learn all the SEO that you want. I'm just saying, guys, I think the better strategy is to learn how to generate revenue in whatever industry you've chosen to enter into first before you try to learn the technical side of things. Because if you can't sell it, what difference does it make whether you know how to rank shit in that industry or not? You see what I'm saying? So I'm just pointing that out, guys, because again, we got, this, it's a repeatable process. The levels of which you have to apply these things is going to change depending on competition levels, right? Depending on the competition. But it's pretty much the same thing every time, right? Just some more competitive areas or campaigns are going to require higher volume of this same thing, right? So I'm just pointing it out because, like I said, I think it's a great process. It's very inexpensive. It's a repeatable plan that gives you options to do it yourself or have somebody else do it for you. I encourage people to go out, and by the way, that's why I have right here as a bonus where I basically talk about that, like why it's so important to learn how to market and sell first. If you do that first, guys, I'm telling you, you won't have any trouble generating good revenue from your agency. It's the ones that, and I know it because we've been coaching people for 10 freaking years, guys. Okay. For over 10 years now, we've been coaching other local SEO professionals that and aspiring agency owners, et cetera. It's the ones that want to learn the SEO side of things first that typically struggle for a lot longer. The ones that learn the marketing and sales side of things typically are a lot more successful a lot sooner, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Cool. Well, thanks, Bradley. And we can come around to those. There's one question though you might want to answer is to asking about the brand builder section. But then we can move over to the other ones.
yeah, let's go take a look at it. Does the brand builder section contain the SOP for finding and building branded assets, or is that only the brand expander course? Well, that's the brand expander course. Um, yeah, the brand builder section, it tells you exactly how to execute the brand builder service if you want using the properties and profiles that we use when we build it. That's what that is. You understand? So basically, the brand builder is a proprietary service that I developed for my clients, and we provide that to you as either training or a done for you service. Brand expander is for, finding additional web 2 properties or social media profiles, any different types of sites where you can create a profile, optimize it, interlink it, to tie it back to the brand, all of that. That's what brand expander is for. Okay. See another one that says 321 digital. Hey guys, when will Local Fury open back up again? We will not be opening it again. We have shut that down as far as our engagement, because Google is becoming a hell of a lot better, guys, at determining what is validated traffic sources and what isn't. And I don't think it's really it was too difficult. We were trying to maintain traffic that was considered validated Google user traffic. And that was part of the reason we ended up having to shut it down, because the costs involved in order to maintain those profiles to appear to be real, verified, about real Google users, I mean, was incredibly difficult and expensive. And so after, 2 years and it was continuing to get harder and harder because Google is getting better at determining whether it's a valid traffic signal or not. And trust me, I'm telling you guys, the days of us being able to do that are numbered. I understand there's some people doing some really advanced stuff, but I look at it this way, guys. I think the easier way to get CTR manipulation done is to do offline marketing for your clients, like traditional offline marketing in their local area. That gets real CTR signals, real click through signals occurring from real consumers in the local area. That's all of that, guys. I'm telling you, just by doing things like direct mail, yard signs, you could do things like radio ads, cable TV ads, even YouTube ads, where you focus on branding so that when people see the ad, they go search for the company by name via Google and then click through. Those types of signals are so much better than CTR manipulation. And so after, again, months and months of us banging our head against the wall and throwing money at the problem, trying to get it to, trying to continue to keep the service to perform well, we said, this isn't worth it. We're going to be chasing this forever. So, and eventually it's going to stop working altogether or even become toxic or harmful. So I don't recommend it anymore, to be honest with you. I think it's dangerous to be continuing to do CTR manipulation unless it's done in the way that I just recommended, which is like a social engineering way to get local consumers to actually do a search and click signal, right? And that's what I recommend. So no local fury, just to be clear.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
Let's get into questions.
Okay, sweet. There's not that many, but Huzzy's up first. He says, "Is Bright Local the only tool that you use to find competing pages, or are there other tools that audit for competing or cannibalization pages?" Well, no, I mean, I don't use Bright Local to find competing pages, but Bright Local often shows me competing pages. Do you understand? Bright Local is not a tool that I use for finding competing pages. What do I use to find competing pages? I crawl the site or look at the site map, right? So you can look at the site maps and you can then, but that's only going to give you the URLs. So I use Website Auditor. I'll just show you Website Auditor. I use the shit out of this tool. There was a lifetime deal on AppSumo for a Website Auditor license. I don't know. It's probably not still available. It's going to probably take a minute to load. But Website Auditor, let me just pull that up here and I'll show you. It's part of the uh, link whatever these SEO Power Suite tools. So that's this here, right? So this is a Website Auditor, what we're looking at here, and I go crawl the site with this using Googlebot. Let me just demonstrate this very quickly. We'll use Semantic Mastery as an example. We got to redo this damn site, man. We really do. All right, new. I'm going to come in here. I paste this in and then I click next. And I always want to crawl the site as the Google bot so that I can see it how Google sees it, right? And then I click finish and it's going to go out and crawl the site. And then once it's done, I go to on page. I set some filters over here to get rid of some of the data that I don't care about. I leave it to H2 to H6 count, H1 heading, H1 count, title, and page. And that's it. And so it's basically 5 items, 5 columns in the spreadsheet. And then once it's done, then I export that, upload it, as a CSV file. And then that's where I open up the file. And that's where I can see by SEO title, well, it's URL in the first column, SEO title in the next column, the number of H1s in the next column, the H1 heading, the text of the H1 heading text in the next column, and then the count of H2s to H6s. What I'm looking for in that data is I'm looking for over optimization, redundancy, duplication, which is the competing pages. And I'm also looking for points of technical or technical SEO errors, which is also known as points of crawl resistance, right? That's what I'm looking for once I look at the pages file that comes from Website Auditor. Does that make sense? Then I can usually just tell, and then I will sort by title or I usually do both, where I sort by page title or SEO title, because that will group pages that have like internal redirects or broken, like internal broken links that are broken, inner links that are broken, excuse me, because they're just going to say the SEO title, the H1, all of those are going to have NA as it shows right here. Well, actually, that's not what I'm looking at. Let me show you what I'm talking about. It's still crawling, so I've not done this before when it was still in the middle of crawling. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so these are the 5 items I leave. Okay, so here we go. And so then what I'm looking for, you'll see NA. And so if you sort by title first, it's going to group all of the page URLs that are internal redirect, either redirects or 404 errors, excuse me. It'll group all of those into one section in the page or the CSV file. And then those are all points of crawl resistance, right? Any sort of internal link like that says NA for the SEO title, the H1, etc. That means it's either an internal redirect or it's going to a 404 page. Does that make sense? So those are points of crawl resistance. So we group all of those together. Then I will usually sort. And by the way, sometimes in looking at the sorted by page title, I can sometimes see cannibalization or potential cannibalization, competing pages from that alone. But then usually if you sort by page URL too, by the way, that'll group similar page URLs together, like for example, tag pages or category pages, things like that, which again are most of the time, in my opinion, points of crawl resistance. They should be set to no index, no follow, or no index follow if you feel like they needed to be crawled for some reason, but not indexed. But in any case, that's what I do. I use Website Auditor for that. Bright Local in the organic rank tracker report can show competing pages, but it is not a tool to identify competing pages. When I say it shows competing pages, if you've got more than one page ranking or it's showing, getting an impression in the search results, the top 50, because that's all Bright Local shows in organic search results is anything that's within the top 50. So if you've got 2 page URLs or more for any search query that are showing up in the top 50 results, which you can see because there will be a little arrow like drop down next to the search query. So if you click the arrow, it'll show you the number of pages that are, and if you have third-party mentions referenced as well, then it'll show third-party mentions, like Yelp and, citations, anything else that are in the search results for that query. But if you see more than one page from the same domain ranking for a particular search query, and I say ranking, I don't mean on page one. It can be, maybe you got 2 on page one, but most of the time it's going to be, let's say, one on page one somewhere and then another one on page 2 or 3, something like that. That's a competing page. 100% competing page, because that's why it's getting 2 page URLs from the same domain for one search query, because they're competing. And that's why typically if you've got 2 pages ranking for, or getting an impression being served for a particular search query, and let's say one of them is in position 4 and the other one's in position 14. Let's just use that as an example. If there had only been one page on the site optimized for that query or relevant to that query, then it would have likely been in position 1 to 3 instead of 4. Do you understand? But Google doesn't know which is the most appropriate page because there's more than one page on the domain for that same search query. So it just ranks both of them, but both of them lower in the search results than if there had only been one page relevant to that query, in which case it would have been performing better. I don't know where, but it likely would have been in position 1 to 3 instead of 4 in this example, which is why I recommend that you eliminate competing pages. Now, there is a particular site or tool that looks for cannibalization, and that is the Quora Lite tool, right? This one here shows cannibalization using the SERP volatility tester. However, I know this for a fact because I used the hell out of this tool for a long time, specifically for checking for cannibalization when doing full SEO audits. But what I've seen more in the last probably year, maybe year and a half even, was that cannibalization has almost ceased to exist, but competing pages has taken over. What is the difference? Cannibalization is when for any given search query, for any instance of the search results, right? So any one search results instance for a particular query, it's going to show only one page from a domain at any given time for that particular search query instance. Do you understand? In other words, true cannibalization is if you were, and that's what Quora Lite does, by the way, with the SERP volatility tester. You can plug in a keyword, you can plug in the target domain, and then you can set, the geolocation of the browser, and then you can set the settings. The default settings are 10 back-to-back searches for whatever query you submit with a geolocated browser if it's for local, okay? And what it does is it pulls in the top 100 results. Now, I don't know how that's changed since the Google got rid of the 100 results thing because I actually canceled my subscription to Quora Lite after about because of what I'm describing now, which is it doesn't cannibalization has not been occurring that I've seen for like the last year to year and a half. It used to be where cannibalization was what was occurring when there were competing pages on the site. They would cannibalize each other. So for 10 back-to-back searches, let's say that in that example that I already just mentioned a moment ago, position 4 and 14, right? Competing pages, position 4 and 14. Okay. Then for, let's say, searches 1, 2, and 3, position 4 shows up. The page that's in position 4 shows up, but the ones that were in 14 would show as an X, meaning it's only one page from the domain being served for any given search instance. That's why it's cannibalization because it's only one at a time, one page from any single domain for any search query. But in competing pages, which is what I've seen, like I said, for the last year and a half, is not cannibalization, but competing pages where Google will serve more than one page from the same domain for a particular search query. But typically, almost always, they're going to be lower in the search results than had there only been one page. Now, in Bright Local, I've seen as many as 3 page URLs for one search query. And it's used like, and it might be like position 7, 14, and 32 or something like that. And so again, if there's 3 pages, then that in the one page that's ranking in this example, number 7, if there had only been one page, that would have likely been in position 1 to 6. Do you get what I'm saying? So this tool will show cannibalization, but the reason I canceled it is because, and like I said, I don't know how. I'm sure Ted did something to resolve the issue with the 100 results problem that Google took away from us. But I stopped using it because this was better for showing cannibalization with a very visual representation of it. But since I'm seeing competing pages now, instead of cannibalization, I can demonstrate that with the Bright Local reports, which all clients get those anyway, if that's clear. So hopefully that answers the question. It was a good question. All right, moving on. Let me close these down. Next one. All right, YouTube comment. These are usually tough to answer, so let me give it a quick shot, and then we'll move on. If not, truth about backlinks. You claim that topical relevance is crucial when building backlinks. However, I know several examples of websites where this rule is completely ignored. Yeah, there's always exceptions to rules, and nothing is absolute in SEO. Nothing is absolute in SEO. One of the analyzed domains, almost 100% do follow backlinks coming from general interest, regional, or media type sites, such as local news portals, city websites, or radio station pages. Let's see. Yeah, that can really be powerful, though, for local. I don't know if it's a local campaign that this guy's talking about. All the backlinks are paid placements on websites. DR 30 to 60 in real traffic, but with zero topical relevance to the target site. Yeah, but links with traffic can also produce a result, even if they lack topical relevance. That's part of the reason why I teach and I mix links with traffic metrics that I purchase from outreach providers like traditional guest poster niche edit providers. I still mix a handful of those links in alongside links that I provide with topical relevance because there is a benefit to links with traffic. Traffic is a validator, right? So, okay, if topical relevance is truly such an important ranking factor for backlinks, then why does this kind of website still rank so well in Google search results? Well, because again, there's multiple other types of links that are being used that do have value, even if they're lacking relevance. Again, local type site links from local sources have geographic relevance, might not be topically relevant, excuse me. They likely aren't topically relevant, but they're geographically relevant. So if it is a local campaign, those links have influence and significance on how the GBP is going to rank in maps search. You understand? Links with traffic, even if they're not particularly relevant, can provide benefit. So again, guys, what I always recommend is what's your, I always talk about this, even a white label link building clients, I tell them flat out, like, look, we don't do outreach links like traditional guest posts and niche edits. But I do recommend that you still include some of those in your link campaigns. And I tell them exactly what I just mentioned here is for tree service contractors, my own local SEO clients, depending on their retainer level, most of my tree guys are around the $1,000 a month level. I got some guys that are 1,500, some at 2,000, but most of my tree guys are around $1,000 a month. And so for them, once per quarter, we'll go out and buy one of those niche edits or guest posts that start at about $199 for a link placement. But what we are targeting then when we are selecting the link placement is at least page level relevance and then traffic metrics. That's what I'm looking for is really traffic metrics with at least some relevance at the page level. But usually when I'm going to spend $200 on a link or more, that's what I'm going to do. If it's my client, so I'll buy one of those every 3 months for my local SEO clients that are on my tree care contractors that are on about $1,000 a month retainers. The guys that are at 1,500 or 2,000 a month will buy two every quarter. Because again, those types of links with the traffic metrics mixed in alongside a bunch of links with relevance, because a lot of the links that we provide don't have much traffic. They don't. I mean, some do, some don't. But what we're pushing is relevance. So, guys, remember, you want a natural looking link profile, right? If you built links 100% if all the links that you built to a campaign were 100% relevance matched, the way that we do it at Semantic Links is we try to achieve relevance matching at 3 levels. The referring page, meaning the content of the referring page that contains the link pointing to the target matches the topical categories of what it's linking to. That's level number one. Level number two is the referring domain level relevance matching, right? In other words, what are the overall topical themes, the most prominent or primary topical themes of the domain in its entirety? And if you can achieve relevance matching between the prominent topical categories at the domain level and ultimately what it's linking to at the target, that's referring domain level relevance matching. But then you can also look at the backlink profile pointing to the referring domain. I use Majestic's topical trust flow metric for that. It's not the metric that matters. It's the topical relevance of the backlinks. And Majestic's topical trust flow metric just happens to be fairly accurate. It's quite accurate, actually, as to the topical relevance of external backlinks. You understand? So what we try to do is achieve relevance matching at 3 levels most of the time. Referring page, referring domain, backlink profile pointing to the referring domain. But not all of our links are going to be fully relevance matched because, and getting back to what I was saying, is that would look manufactured. That would smell fishy. You get what I'm saying? You don't want all of your links to be 100% topically relevant at multiple levels because that looks manufactured. You want a natural looking link profile. How do you do that? Well, you get links from all these different sources, many of which were just mentioned here. Does that make sense? So you do that, you have a natural looking link profile, and you're getting all of the different signals that are needed in order to rank well. Okay. It's a good question. I appreciate the question. Hopefully I answered it well. Mike says, I notice your Felling Pro LLG sites, you're using subdomains for local counties within the states you were targeting, which I like. I'm considering taking the same approach. Well, let me just tell you one thing then. Don't build on high level now. I know I was telling everybody to build on high level for about a year and a half. High level sites are not performing well all of a sudden. Not all of a sudden. It's been a few months now. I was hoping they'd come back, and they may eventually, but I don't know when. And honestly, I'm done with high level sites performed terribly in organic search for a long time, and then something changed, and all of a sudden they started ranking really well with proper structure and everything. I mean, and for a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, like that was my favorite way to build sites. And then 3 or 4 months ago, something happened, one of the Google's updates, and it doesn't like high level code again, I guess, for their websites. It is very bloated code. I knew that all along. but it seemed like it didn't matter for a while. And so I really did. I shifted so many of my sites over to high level sites, and god damn, I wish I wouldn't have done it now. And that's why just because they're not performing well again, and they may come back, but I don't know when. So I started using Bolt.new as a new site builder that, because you can chat with it and have it build the site. I haven't really perfected it yet. I'm trying really hard to build a site builder in Bolt.new that will be a repeatable way to deploy LLG sites by just completing a form, just like I did with the LLG sites in high level. But this outputs a very lean code type of an HTML site. Blazing fast loading, very light on the code. It's not all bloated. And so I'm trying to replace my LLG sites entirely with Bolt.new with a site builder. I've been working on it for a few weeks, but I only have limited time to work on it. So that's not been done yet. But eventually, when I get it done, then I'll be moving all of my sites off of high level onto Bolt sites where we just map a custom domain to it. I mean, we keep the same domains. We're just going to change the platform, right? The site platform from high level to Bolt because it's done in HTML and it's blazing fast. And I've done some testing with some site builds. I haven't built the site builder yet. I'm still working on that, but I have built some test sites with Bolt.new to test them, and they do perform significantly better than high level sites, just to be clear. So anyway, to get back to the question was, I'll be populating my site with local hotels. Let's see. I'm considering taking the same approach to my local directory listing site, which just targets a single state. Okay. I'll be populating my site with local hotels, multifamily housing, local job listings, local events, and local restaurants. The GBP has the primary category of the business center. Okay. I will populate my first site or my site first with hotel data, then branch out from there. I'm trying to figure out the best URL structure. I'm using a fictitious domain, local.directory, and example hotel Marriott, but which approach would be most beneficial in terms of ranking my directory site as well as the hotel brand in organic SERPs and Google Maps? Um, okay, so out of these three examples that you proposed, what would be the most effective? Well, let's typically don't do this on a Hump Day Hangout, but we'll just do this briefly. Give me 1 second. That's more of a question that I would answer in a mastermind webinar, guys, because then we can spend lots of time on it and talk about different configurations and all that kind of stuff. But that's okay. We'll cover it right now briefly. All right. So, all right. There's 1, 2, 3. All right. You don't want to do the subdomain method unless, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. If you're targeting one state, and if it's all around, well, let me see, hotels, multifamily housing, local job listing. So it's basically like you're building like a local directory, but a statewide local directory where you're going to be targeting multiple areas within the state, right? I mean, I think that's what I'm understanding here. Um, let's see. I will populate my first site first with, let's see, I'll be. So I'm not sure whether you're asking your directory site or you're asking about LLG sites. That's the thing that's part of the reason why it's hard to do this. If Mike is here, I don't know if you are, Mike. Um, yeah, I don't see Mike in the chat, guys. So if Mike was here, I would ask for clarification on this. So it's kind of hard for me to understand the question because I don't know if he's asking about building. It looks like the directory because it's in the domain. So this must be the directory. So no, if it's a directory, you do everything on the one directory domain. I wouldn't split it up because you're going to have a nightmare of a time managing a whole bunch of different sites on different subdomains for one directory. Wait, it's one directory brand. Now I understand, Felling Pro is one brand, but Felling Pro is a local tree care contractor brand, which means every separate location that they want to target or service area that they want to target can have its own site because that site would be literally for one contractor. And maybe a contractor wants to target, three big areas. Well, then I'd give them three separate sites separated by county, just the way that I've got Felling Pro set up. But the directory's all on one domain, treecarehq.com. Now I have a podcast.treecarehq.com, but that's specifically just for podcasts. You understand? So if I'm going to build a directory, I'm going to build the directory under one brand, all on the one site, right? You have categories, you silo the site by industry. right? And by location. Go look at TreeCare HQ. You can do it either way or both. It's really both. You can sort or search by industry or business category, service category. And mine, there's tree services, landscapers, and excavators. And the only reason why I have landscapers and excavators is because some tree guys do one or both of those other services. That's the only reason why they're even on the directory site. Or you can sort by location, state, city, whatever. Does that make sense? So the directory site you're going to have set up, I would do it this way. For lead gen assets, if you're going to build organic only lead gen assets, which I recommend using as a sales tool, then that would be different. You would have a separate subdomain for each kind of local business type of a site that you were building. If that's clear. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's move on. I don't think Mike's here, is he? No. I see a couple questions or comments. David, what's up, man? He says, I still haven't used high level at all. Well, you're better off now. Now, don't get me wrong. I love high level and hate it, but I love and hate it, just to be clear, because of I'm fully married to high level by now. But I'm talking about specifically just the websites. Yeah, you're better off not using the high level websites now. And I know I told everybody to use them for a year and a half. Man, I was so excited that they were really performing well, and then until they weren't. And it's not the site, it's not the structure of the site that is preventing it from performing better. It's high level. How do I know that? Because it was across the board, right? With high level sites. So anyway, the trick is to build it once, then remix it. I built a website on Bolt, fooled around and published it before I finished really building it out. Wouldn't you believe? Not only my index, but I'm starting to get traffic. I know those sites. I'm telling you, man, those sites. Google likes efficient code, guys. Talking about this for 2 years. The two most important things in local search: branded location authority, which is, what does Google understand about the brand, specifically that particular business location. The second one is site efficiency. I've been talking about that for 2 years. Site efficiency is the second most important thing. That is why you need to get rid of things like points of crawl resistance or technical SEO errors, redundancies, competing pages, all of those things that we've already talked about today, right? So if you can also improve the speed of the site through leaning the code out and making it much more load faster, all of that reduces crawl usage, crawl budget, right? Reduces Google's resource usage. Therefore, it will perform better. Again, thanks to the helpful content update. Um, that is a major ranking factor that I've seen from all the analyses that I do all the time. And not kidding, guys. The more bloated the site, the poorer it performs. And that includes not just pages, but the code itself. That's clear. All right. Oh, 321 digital is Mike. Okay, what's up, Mike? Did that make sense then about the directory sites, Mike? Keep everything on one domain. Does that make sense? You don't want to you have a management nightmare if you try to split the directory site up into different sites based on categories or locations. That would be a nightmare. Do that for the lead gen sites so that you have a standalone asset to point to as a sales tool. You can monetize it if you want. The way that I monetize my lead gen sites, guys, that I use the LLG sites, which I use as sales tools, is by pointing to them when I'm pitching my services to other contractors in that same area. That's the only reason I have them, because it makes it, even if I have other sites in other areas that I can point to, it shows them that I'm already getting results in their area. Oftentimes, when I'm using the LLG site as a sales tool, it is already outranking their site for at least some of their keywords in some of the areas that they're targeting. It doesn't have to outrank it entirely, but I can point to it and say, look, I just built this site, a month ago or 2 months ago or whatever. I don't have anybody in this area yet, but it's already performing very well. It's outranking you in some cases for some of the areas that you're targeting for some of the services, blah, blah, blah. Here it is. And I did this in 2 months with no budget. So with your budget, imagine what I could do for you. And by the way, if you sign up with me by Friday or whatever it is that I say, I'll assign any of the leads that come from this site exclusively to you and nobody else, as long as you're a paying subscriber. Does that make sense? Should we work together? That's what I do. So LLG sites are for sales tools, not necessarily to monetize, because organic lead gen assets really don't produce very many leads anymore. They did, but they don't so much anymore. So now it's more about using it to show that you already can get results in their area for the exact same products and services that they sell, and use that as a kind of a deal sweetener, so to speak, to get them to purchase your retainer based marketing services. All right. Yes, thanks. He said, okay, perfect. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that, man. I'm glad that was helpful. And if Mike, if you're the Mike who I think it is that's in our mastermind as well, we do have Build with Bradley meeting tomorrow. So you're more than welcome to jump on. We can have a discussion about it. If that's you. If it's not, then come join the mastermind and talk with me anyway. All right, next is um Costco says, do you add all your LOGs to GSC to submit them for indexing or let them index? No, I submit them to Search Console 100%. 100%. Submit them to Search Console. Because we're not doing anything spammy. I'm not doing anything spammy with those sites. So I don't care. There's no reason not to have them in Search Console, in my opinion. Right? So absolutely. As soon as it's published and ready, I take the sitemap URL and go straight to Search Console and add it by URL prefix and then add the sitemaps. Then I do page speed insights. So that gets the bots. By the way, that's a little trick when you add a new site or page or whatever to a new domain, new site, whatever to Search Console. If you go um, page speed insights and have it go scan, that gets the bots coming to crawl the site. So it can help with indexing a little bit faster, but absolutely. Okay. All right, next. Let's see. The question here is from Jace. Jace says, for our mobile auto repair company, what is the best way to list all of our makes and models we service efficiently, but that will also rank? I don't know because I don't know that I would want to create a bunch of pages on the site targeting makes and models. Um, Mobile auto repair. Yeah, you might be. I've not done that before, so this is speculation. Okay, please understand if it's not something I have any actual experience with, I can try to provide some guidance, but I've got to disclaim right up front. It would need to be tested. I don't know. Okay. Um, you could probably create pages for makes like manufacturers, car manufacturers, makes, and then, but I would probably only target one page for each manufacturer or make and then just have that page fleshed out with even if it was an accordion or kind of expandable or collapsible menus, whatever you want to call them, that would talk about the different models of that particular make or manufacturer. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, you'd end up creating so many goddamn pages on the site, and you might want to test with that too. Maybe here's a way to split test it to determine what would be the look. I always want to recommend the minimum viable option first. See how it performs with the least amount of work, right? So maybe go in and pick the top five car manufacturers or makes that this particular company of your client of yours, Jace, or I don't know, Jace, this might even be your own business. I know who this is. But in any case, you could, whatever the top five most common models are, if you have that data, maybe go and set up five pages, one for each of those manufacturers and then take a couple of them and add just a menu or whatever, some sort of a element within the page that will reference each of the different models of that particular manufacturer. See how does that perform? That one page, how does it perform for search queries, including the manufacturer or makes name, the model names, et cetera? Because you may be able to get away with just one page talking about the manufacturer and all the different models and remember, guys, you don't need to have that. That page doesn't need to have 4,000 words of content. I promise you. Okay. Uh, but then on some of the other manufacturer pages, you could create child pages, or posts within that category, depending on how you configure it. That would be a separate, very short post or page for each of the models. I would think that would be quite busy and create a lot of additional work and a lot of pages. So I would prefer to do everything on one page and see how it performs first. Here's a way that you can test it without automatically just going out and creating a bunch of model pages as child pages or posts within the appropriate model cat or manufacturer category. I would first start with what I just mentioned, which was create a separate page for each manufacturer, where then on that page, all of the models are referenced. That's it. See how it performs. And then if you have some that are performing fairly good, but let's say, for example, you give it 4 to 6 weeks after it's been indexed to see how is it going to settle in for a very search some of the search queries related with a particular manufacturer. For example, let's just use Ford as an example. So say Ford F-150 mobile auto repair as just an example. Let's say that that's ranking in position and with the city modifier, obviously, right? Because local. Let's say that you're ranking position 12. I'm just throwing numbers out. It's pure hypothetical, okay? But let's say it's ranking position number 12. Well, then you've got a couple of choices. You can either build links to that page with Ford F-150 mobile auto repair and variations of that type of a keyword as an anchor text, right? And when I say build links, very sparingly, and see, can you move that page up for that query by building a link to that page with some variation of that query in the anchor text? You might be able to do that. That prevents you from having to publish more pages. Okay. But that's one option. The other option then would be to pull that specific model out and create a child page or post placed within the appropriate category that then you're going to interlink from that top level Ford page. When it references F-150, then it's going to have an internal link to the supporting page. Within the F-150 page, it's going to have an internal link back up to the Ford page. Do you understand? Now you've got a whole nother page, which will likely perform better in search. But now you've also got to consider the additional work, and that becomes another link building target, which means you're going to dilute your link building because now you've got more pages to build links to, right? You also dilute internal linking, et cetera, because it's going deeper into the URL structure, all of that. So I always recommend doing the least amount of work, period. Number one, for the workload reason, but number two, because it keeps the site more efficient. What did we already talk about on today's call? Site efficiency. The leaner the site, which includes number of pages, the better it tends to perform in local search right now. So if you've got a site that if you can achieve it with one page, a manufacturer page referencing all the models, you're better off than if you have to create separate child pages, supporting pages for each of the models that are nested underneath their appropriate manufacturer page. Does that make sense? But those are just a couple of examples of how you can test this to figure out what the best configuration is. And it's going to require some testing. Unfortunately, that's our business, right? Hypothesizing, testing, and then once you come up with a control, that becomes your default, your control. You always try single variable tests against your control to try to beat your control. Once you find something that performs better, you work it in to your control, and then you start split testing other variables until you can beat the control again, right? That's how you do it. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the way I would do it. Okay. Yeah, it would be very inefficient to build all those pages out. So I'd start with the one page and then see how it performs. Only build those additional pages if needed if you're going to test on it. All right, Alex says, hey, Bradley, I had a plumbing company come to me for services, but they already signed up with one of the large plumbing centric agencies, but they still want me to help them out. So I'm going to do content, citations, web twos, PRs, etc., to appear in AI results. How do you recommend I do these services without shooting myself in the foot and helping the other company's efforts? And not being able to prove the results. I was thinking of creating a tracking number for the assets I build, but that will throw off the NAP information. No, it won't throw off the NAP information as long as the tracking number that you create for your specific marketing campaigns is also added to the GBP as an additional phone number. It won't display, but it will be on the back end where Google will know that that is not an NAP discrepancy. You understand? Remember, guys, if you go into the Google Business Profile, you go to the phone number section, there's the primary number, which is the display number, but you can add additional phone numbers. So if you have other phone numbers or you're creating a campaign specific marketing phone number, then you just go into the GBP and add it there as an additional phone number. It's not going to display, but it doesn't matter. It's giving Google the data to say this is also another one of our numbers. Okay. Um, what I would recommend is that you also build an ID page for them because I almost guarantee you that the other SEO agency isn't doing that. And I would do most all of my link building and PR promotions and all of that stuff to the ID page, the Press Advantage organization page, any of the branded Web 2s that you're doing, like flesh out the G site. You know, Alex, you're in the mastermind, right? We do the content or the G sites for local SEO, which is basically where you use the Google site to mirror the main site structure. And then you could build links to that. So you could do that, right? Flesh out the G site, have it. There's the SOPs in the mastermind. You can do it via the SOP. Give it to one of your VAs, let them do it, right? And now you got a G site, ID page, Press Advantage organization page. Those are three primary assets right there that you can use to do all of your promotional, all of your stuff to, and see how it performs. Okay, that's what I would do. Nice. Didn't know that. That's Alex. Okay, sweet. All right, one more, guys, and then we're done. Just on time today, too. Huzzy says if a GBP is only trying to rank in Vancouver, would it make sense to make different location pages for all the neighborhoods and set the LLP to the neighborhood page that closest to the GBP physical address? Or should we use the homepage targeting all of Vancouver as the LLP and then just interlink to the neighborhood pages? You'd have to test with that. It's a sound hypothesis. You'd have to test with it. In my experience, I've done some similar testing. I found that you're better off linking not to a particular neighborhood page, but to the a page optimized for the same city, right? The same city name. And even if you have supporting neighborhood pages or supporting location pages underneath that city, then it's that those are child pages of that city, so to speak, of that location, that city or town location page, whatever it is. So I usually would just rank to the, or excuse me, link to the actual city page, because then again, it's providing agreement. If Huzzy doesn't know this because he's never ordered an audit from me, but if anybody that's ever ordered an audit from me knows that I talk about this, you want the GBP and the location landing page, well, and the website in general to provide agreement with each other. Right? The GBP and the website should agree with each other. I got that from Ted Kubitis. We were just looking at Cora Light a minute ago. That's where I got that phrase from, how they should provide agreement. That was from Ted Kubitis. It clicked with me. I was like, absolutely, it makes sense. It should provide agreement. So if the GBP has a city name, not a neighborhood name, listed as the physical location, right? Then you would link the GBP to the parent page, which is the city page that then has child pages for the neighborhoods. Hopefully that's clear, but it's worth testing, right? It's worth testing. Try the neighborhood page that where the physical location that actually resides in, like where if it's part of a specific neighborhood, try it. See, split test it. Like I just said, single variable testing. Have it the one way, get a benchmark, right? Which is like a baseline of how it is ranking but try not to do other things to it, right? Get a baseline of where it is, and then change the URL to a neighborhood page, and wait and see. Give it a good 6 or 8 weeks after it's been indexed to see where it kind of fully settles in. I know that sucks when you're, especially if you're doing in like a live production site. It's very difficult to wait those kind of times. That's why I always tell people set up test sites, right? Pick one fucking industry and set up test sites so that you have, again, in the same industry every time, so that as you're doing these changes in these tests, these single variable tests, the industry, the keywords, everything is the same, right? So you're just changing variables in the one industry by location, positioning, things like that. So that's all I'm saying. If you, by the way, anytime you have a test site that you've done something that you found to be a winning combination, that now becomes a monetizable site. So it makes sense, in my opinion, to build a bunch of test sites so you can test different things. And when you have successes, you can monetize them. All right. All right, comments, guys, and then we're going to wrap up. Let's see. David, I should share dynamic content strategies on Bolt. It's really crafty. Huh. Okay. I'm not even sure I know what you're talking about, David. Costco says, I got a site builder that spits out sites using pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They perform well, especially with EMDs. That's awesome. Right now, by the way, EMDs is the fucking cheat code to local SEO. No question. And I don't know why, but I see it in the competitive analysis reports all the time. Exact match domains are crushing it in local SEO right now. I don't know how long that's going to last. I wouldn't build my business on that. I've been saying that for 10 years. I wouldn't build my business on EMDs, but right now they're crushing it. Okay, we're done. Thanks, everybody. Right on time. Look at that. That's rare.
Well done.
Thanks, guys. All right. Thanks.